What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the Just Gonna Say It podcast. And it is Tuesday, 4 p.m. That's when we do this. I hope everybody's having a great day and hope everybody's having a great week so far. It's been really busy around here. I'll get you caught up on that in just a minute. As always, we are doing this stuff ad-free. So that means that this is all sponsored by you. If you want to participate or help out or support the channel, you can do a couple of things. One, you can use a super chat when you ask a question today. Also, you can ask a question even if you don't use a super chat, but of course you can do that. Also, you can go to DylanTalksTone.com and you can buy a set of pickups or a shirt or a hat or some pots or caps or anything like that. Also, you can go in the description of this video and use any of those links down there that may have affiliates associated with them. All those things will support the channel, and we really appreciate it when you do that kind of stuff. Thanks for hanging out. Today, we're going to talk about, we're basically going to talk about questions that I get a lot, okay? When people are shopping for pickups, that they ask a lot of questions that are basically super irrelevant. So, we're going to talk about some of those, and I was hearing voices, so hang on. We got a super chat from Dave, ad-free. Thank you so much, sir. So yeah, there's a lot of things. So, and here's what I want to do. I'm going to tell you some stuff that's come up for me. That's, kind of come up in my travels as we continue to, make pickups and send them out every day. Of course we have things that we've noticed. Why is this goofing up on me? Hang on one second. There we go. Okay. Ecamm changed a couple of features, and so it's kind of giving me a goofy deal. Okay. So the thumbnail, I think, says something about this stuff doesn't matter really when it comes to your guitar tone. And so I want to kind of go through some of that stuff. So if you have questions about like, how much difference does this really make? And I'm doing this through the lens of pickup selection and kind of building your overall package. Okay. Now, obviously we could get super in the weeds about every little thing. It's all stacking, right? So you could say, this feature and this feature and this feature and this feature together get me to a spot. And you could say, well, every little thing makes a difference to how your guitar sounds, etc. But there's a lot of things that don't make enough of a difference to even waste your time with. And again, we could talk about stacking tolerances, but we are going to talk about that. So, and I think what you're going to see is a lot of this stuff is super, super simple. Like a lot of it's way simpler than you think, and people overthink a lot of it. And I think that's because there's a lot more range, like availability of, there's just a lot. It's a lot easier than people think. When you make a change in your guitar, the things that you think make a large percentage of like swing and, influence on how your guitar sounds. It's not as big as you think. So we'll talk about some of that. Before we do that, I wanted to show you, and I wanted to invite you, if you are at all inclined, this weekend. Let me see if okay. So this weekend, I'm going to be at this show, the Amigo guitar show in Nashville. Here's the It's actually in Franklin, Tennessee, which is just south of Nashville. So here it is. This is the thing. It tells you all the stuff. I don't remember how much it is to get in there, like 10 or 12 bucks or something. Buy, sell, trade. We're going to have a bunch of pickups and a bunch of other stuff. This is co-sponsored by Vintage Guitar Magazine. I've already talked to a bunch of people that I know that are going to be there. It's going to be super cool. I'm going to be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There is an industry day, sort of like a, what do you want to say? Almost like a, well, it's an industry day, basically, on Friday. So if you are one of those people, then I might see you on Friday. If you are not, hopefully I get to see you on Saturday or Sunday. We're going to bring a bunch of stuff. We are going to bring, I've been working on this for weeks. We're going to bring a bunch of P90s. We're going to bring a bunch of DAFs. We're going to bring a bunch of flat sixes. Because it's Nashville and because of the crowd and the, propensity towards vintagey kind of stuff, I thought it'd be fun to bring DAFs, tele pickups, P90s. What else do I got in there? I did bring some Enduros because those are not super vintage spec, but they're super fun. And our Highway 99 Strat pickups. So we have a bunch of sets of all of that stuff. We've got pit guards. We've got unloaded pit guards because I've got a bunch of pit guards in stock, so I thought I'd bring them. We've got, all kinds of stuff. It's going to be really cool. And what I'm doing is I think we're bringing like 8 or 10 guitars to like demo all this stuff, which is going to be super fun. And I bought this thing. It's right over here. You can't see it right now, but I bought this thing it's going to be a station basically. So we're going to have our guitars available, and we're going to have a headphone amp station. So I'm going to use my Tonex and my Kemper, and we're going to set up a couple of things where you can sit down there and play and demo the pickups. It's going to be super fun. I'm really excited about it. I was talking to a couple of people today who were telling me that they were going to be there, and some other folks that told me they weren't going to be there, but then they hooked me up with some other folks. It's going to be really fun. Nashville's a cool place to do that kind of thing. And I've never actually done this show before. I'm actually going to be there sharing a booth. I think we got 30 feet total, like 3 of them to put together with Runway Audio and Gear Pass, which is another company that he owns, which you should actually check out. Actually, I think it's gearpass.com. It's a membership that gives you a bunch of discounts to a bunch of guitar related gear on the internets. And we are part of that. So I don't remember how much the membership costs, but if you are a member of it, then you end up getting discounts on tons of stuff. There are tons of brands. And it's worth it. So I'll tell you right now, if you were a member of Gear Pass, you would be able to get a discount on like a Runway Audio cable and a discount on a set of our pickups, and it would probably pay for itself. So yeah, super cool. Anyway, not a sponsor or anything, but I'm part of that deal, and I'm hanging out with them this weekend, so I wanted to mention it. It's gonna be pretty cool. All right, so let's talk about stuff that doesn't really matter. Okay. First of all, we need to establish, and if you have questions about this as we talk, please put them in the comments and I'll try to grab them. When we look at the guitar, there are a lot of things that you can do to change how the guitar sounds, obviously. But what happens is tradition over time has made it to where people focus on stuff that if you were to break this out into percentages, like if you were to say, this will make 30% difference in my tone, this will make 5%, 3%, 2%. I think people get those things a lot mixed up. One of the main questions that we get in our chat on the website is, what I have a certain fretboard. Fretboard material is so high on the list of things that people use as a deciding factor whether they're going to get a certain set of pickups or not. And I'm not going to argue whether that matters or not in the grand scheme of things. But what I will say, and this is kind of the lens I'm looking at this through, is when somebody says, I had this the other day, I have such and such a Strat with a rosewood fretboard, and I want the pickups, I want brighter tone, even though I have a rosewood fretboard. So that was a legitimate question. And what I told him was, anything that you get from us is going to be an obvious bump in clarity that is going to overcome whatever perceived difference your fretboard makes in the tone of your guitar. So when we look at tone wood, when we look at fretboard material, when we look at finishes, when we look at, we'll get into capacitor choice and pots and that kind of stuff. Even body construction, well, this is another one. It's a neck through, or it is a set neck, or it is a bolt-on neck. I have had experience with bolt-on necks, and they don't give me X or Y. Those things, when you look at the type of a swing that you're making, so let's say you buy a set of pickups from us. It doesn't matter which one, I don't care. And you put them in your guitar. The fundamental improvement to your sound of your guitar is going to be so great that any of the things that we just talked about are going to be within a margin of error that aren't going to matter. So it's not that those things don't ever matter, right? We're not saying that. We're not saying that at all, because everything is sort of cumulative. But I think what happens a lot of times is people will take features of guitar and aspects of how a guitar is built, materials and that sort of stuff, and they will assign it way bigger of an effect than it actually is, given the other changes that you're making. Now, if you were going to change only the fretboard material, right? And that was the only change you were going to make, and you feel that your guitar now sounds different because you went from a maple fretboard to a rosewood fretboard, or vice versa, and you feel that that's different, you may very well be right. It's not something that I personally care about, but you may be, in your situation with everything that you've got in your rig, you may be right. If you go from an alder Strat to a swamp ash Strat, everything else being exactly the same, and you feel that there is a difference in how those guitars sound, I would say that it would actually feel different more than it would sound different. There's a whole scientific reason for that we could get into. But those are also very minute changes. Here's the thing that's interesting. We get in conversations. In fact, there's a pretty good conversation going in the comment section of yesterday's video, talking about the contributing factors to, like fret size and neck relief and, the size of the neck and all that kind of stuff. The conversation we had yesterday, if you didn't see that video, you should go watch it. It's a thought-provoking thing, and it's an interesting conversation in the comments. People are contributing a lot of really neat stuff. But as they do it, what they are kind of assigning the amount of change to is very interesting. And I think when you, for example, put a new set of pickups in a guitar and you go with a particular brand. So you've probably had experience with this. You've found, I would imagine, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I would assume that you've probably found that there are different brands that you'll go to for different stuff if you've been doing this for any amount of time. So like if you play metal, or if you want something really hot, DiMarzio makes some really good stuff for that, right? If you want active stuff, you're going to go EMGs. If you want I don't know. What else? But with us, it's going to be note definition and clarity, right? Everything. All of our pickups, it's all going to have it. So I don't care what your guitar is made of. I don't care what fretboard it is. I don't care what scale length it is. I don't care. You're going to get clarity and note definition over any other pickups, period. That's because that's what we do. It's just what we do. Just like if you go put some high output thing from DiMarzio in your guitar or EMGs in your guitar, you're going to get excellent pinch harmonics, right? You just know you're going to get that stuff. So that, I guess that's what I'm getting at is these are a lot bigger swings than other things that will just kind of fall in the margin of error below that, if that makes sense. And so what happens is it makes it a lot easier to buy stuff. It makes it a lot easier to make geared decisions if you just, I don't want to say don't worry about that stuff because, I mean, there's reasons why I like rosewood fretboards and there's reasons why I like maple fretboards and there's reasons why I like alder and I like ash and I like all these, nitrocellulose finishes. And there's a reason why this guitar has this combination of that. And there's a reason why this other guitar has a combination of that. And I have my reasons, right? So, and I'm sure you do too. You might say, I don't like ash body guitars for whatever reason. I don't like it, right? But if you assign them too big of a percentage of adjustment, it's going to be misspent energy, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Got a super chat. We need to account for the placebo effect. Ad free. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate that. Let me see. Let me go back through some of these, see if there's any comments in here. I don't overthink it a lot. I overthink always. Companies use the same ingredients to make pickups. If companies use the same ingredients to make pickups, how do your pickups sound clearer? What changes? It's how we make them. Well, there's a couple things. They're not all the same materials, first of all. Cheap pickups aren't the same materials. I don't care what anybody tries to tell you in the Harley Benton group on Facebook. Cheap pickups are not the same as good ones. The magnets don't come from the same place. The wire doesn't come from the same place. The parts don't come from the same place. And most importantly, the application of all that technology and how we put it together does not come from the same place. I'll give you a couple of... I'll give you... Because clarity and note definitions are my two favorite things I care about. I'll give you something. I'm not going to give you numbers and specs, but I'll tell you a thing that I check that I don't know that a lot of others do. When we hear about pickup specs, oftentimes we're going to hear about magnet gauss, we're going to hear about resistance, and we're going to hear about inductance. What's interesting is we don't really hear about inductance that much, not as much as we should. We should hear about it more. The reason we don't hear about inductance and magnet gauss is because there are different ways to measure that stuff. And so the standard becomes a little squishy. So if I say this magnet is, measures at 675 and you buy a Gauss meter and it measures at, 740, that could be because we are measuring it with different equipment. It's weird. It's not. Well, if I was to spend, 10 grand on equipment just for that, I could probably get us to a standard that would matter. But the problem is that there's going to be somebody in a shed somewhere who buys one off of Amazon, just like the one I have, and they're going to say, well, it's not the same, right? I was actually just watching something about this on a pocket knife channel. Somebody has like this do-it-yourself Rockwell hardness tester, and they're like, your knife isn't as hard as you say it is. And it's like, well, because you're using some Amazon thing to check something that really should have a $10,000 piece of equipment to check it. So there's a lot of variation when it comes to gauss and also inductance. So inductance meters can run at different frequencies, okay? And so when I talk about inductance, I don't publish those numbers because I know that if someone else were to measure it with their meter that is at a different price point and a different standard and what, way better than mine or whatever, that they might see different numbers and it would confuse the end user. So all I care about is relative to my own creation. So if I make one pickup and I measure it with my equipment, and then I make another pickup and I measure it with my equipment, that relative between the two, that they're where I want them to be. Okay. So that's why I don't really publish those numbers, because they can kind of be all over the place depending on the equipment. So that's why we don't see that a whole lot. Is one of my, I believe, is one of my it's an opinion that I have. That's one of the reasons why I think we don't see inductance so much. The other measurement that you almost never see, that I check on everything when I design it, is capacitance. Folks don't talk about capacitance a lot. And where that comes from is basically what happens is anytime you have two pieces of wire laying next to each other, they're going to lose energy into each other. Okay. So it's called capacitive loss. So on a guitar cable and in a pickup and a speaker cable, anything with any kind of length to it, you've got two wires laying next to each other. And think of it's almost like off gassing. Like it's like losing some to that one and that one's losing some to that one. Well, when you have a whole bundle of them, like you have a pickup that's got 10,000 winds on it, it's got how many layers or whatever, there's signal that's like leaking out into each other. That's capacitive loss. And so I have standards for that. I don't publish those. I don't talk about the numbers. I never show anybody the numbers. I don't show my friends those numbers. In fact, I don't know that I even have them written down. I just know that when I put a meter on it, if it's a certain number, I'm not even going to tell you which way or the other. I'm like, I got to go back to the drawing board. So that is an example of something that I feel that we do a little different. Now, do other people do that and just not talk about it? I don't know. But that is something that we do a little bit different. Great question, though. Great question. Trying to give you as much detail as possible. Like, I don't want to give up stuff that makes us unique, but at the same time, the science behind it's real, right? It's not, and it is numbers. It's like literally you can take a piece of equipment and you can measure this, and it's a quantifiable thing. I'm not going to share what those quantities are, but it's, there's a meter you can put on it and you can read it, right? So it's a real thing. Let's see. Let's see. The only time I've not liked a great playing guitar was an all maple guitar with an ebony fretboard. It had a tone that wasn't horrible, but a frequency I couldn't EQ out, and it was a long time ago. This is an interesting observation. Thanks for making this, Hawkman Hawks, because this is something that I wanted to talk about. Chris at Highland, Chris, you say you check that too. You are a smart dude, and I would not expect anything less from you, Chris. I would, of anybody that I could think of that would nerd out about that, you would be one of those people. Yeah. So thank you, for that. So getting back to Hawkman Hawk's question here, or observation here, because people will get in the comments and they will say, well, the problem is that it's stackable. It's like stacking tolerances. So you could say, well, but I like this rosewood fretboard with this body because they go well together. And then this, if I do all these things wrong, then it's going to get me to a place that I don't like. What Hawkman Hawks brought up was a very interesting observation there, in that when you take a whole bunch of things that you don't like and you put them together, it's possible that you can end up way over here, right? But that's not common. Most of the time, we have control over most of the aspects of the construction of a guitar. So, and here's the other thing, is in 2025, manufacturing and material selection and all that kind of stuff is in a pretty good tolerance. What is a good example? I'm going to ask you, what is a good example of something 20 years ago that you could buy, not guitar related? Think of something outside of, not talking about guitars. I'm talking about in general in life. Something that you could buy one brand of that sort of sucked, on a technology basis. And then as the technology got better, then it's hard to get a bad one now. What's something like that? Think about that for a second and get in the comments and tell me, because I'm kind of drawing a blank here. I mean, an American compact car would be a good example of that. When they're trying to make a good gas mileage car and all you had was the Reliant K car in 1984, that thing sucked. And you could go to Japan and get a really good one, and it was 100 times better. And now all of the technology has moved forward, and materials and everything have moved forward. And it's like, a good cheap car is just a good cheap car, right? It's the same kind of thing with guitars. Guitars are like that, where it used to be, especially in the least expensive stuff, that the build quality, the material selection, the parts sourcing, all that kind of stuff could be hit or miss, and could have stacked tolerances that got you way off into left field, and all of a sudden this guitar is just garbage. But now, because things have kind of gotten standard, and for lack of a word, sort of boring even on the inexpensive side, everybody's using, they kind of know. You just kind of know what you're going to buy and what you're going to get at a particular price point, and you don't need to worry about it so much. So what happened to Hockman Hawks there with this wood and this wood and this wood and this wood, and then it got him to a spot where there was a sound that he couldn't get rid of, that doesn't happen very often anymore. Maybe in some really weird stuff, but has it happened to you lately with a new guitar? Let's ask that question. Kind of think about a couple of these things. Every bolt action rifle, yeah, exactly. Televisions, that's another good one. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Televisions, so something I don't know that we've ever talked about on this channel. I'll tell you my start in electronics. What I went to school for. It is what I did professionally for quite a while, was fix televisions and consumer electronics. VCRs, televisions with tubes, like actual tubes. And what I actually got really kind of sucked into was computer monitors, because back in the old days, semiconductors were not as good as they are now. And the switching power supplies that were in computer monitors would go bad, and you would lose vertical sync and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, nowadays, we don't even think about it. We can go get a big screen TV from Walmart, $300, chuck it on the wall, and probably never think about it again. And probably give it to your kids when you get a new one, just because you want a bigger one. Not, well, don't buy X or Y brand because that thing sucks and it's going to burn up in 6 months. There are a few of those, I suppose, but overall, not really. And it's kind of the same way with guitar stuff. I remember when 3 shots into an inch was superb accuracy. Yeah, exactly. Popcorn. Computers. Yeah, I mean, if you think about all that stuff, if you think about all those things that just have terrible stacking tolerances that get you way off in left field, and it's not even somewhere where you want to be. So it's like, I can't really do anything with this. We just don't have that anymore with guitar stuff. And I guess what I'm saying with all this is, you could go, I'll tell you this right now. This is my just gonna say it moment. You could go right now and buy any guitar you want. I don't care. From a custom shop Les Paul to a Harley Benton and everything in between, right? And you could buy a set of pickups and change the sound of the guitar, or give it a characteristic that it did not have before that would supersede any of the other things about that guitar. So doesn't matter what wood it's made from, doesn't matter what finish is on it, doesn't matter what fretboard is on it, doesn't matter anything. And you could buy a set of pickups from me or somebody else, doesn't matter who. If they're good, it will make that guitar, I'm not saying it'll make it sound better, but it will change it enough that it would supersede any other little change that you would make on that guitar. And I think that's important to think about, because if we understand that, and I'm not saying pickups make the biggest difference. Personally, I believe how the guitar feels makes the biggest difference. I think if you don't like it, you're not going to play it well, and it's not going to sound good. If you pick up a guitar and you're like, ugh, you know, if it doesn't look good, if it doesn't feel good, if it doesn't, whatever, you know, like if you're just not drawn to it, if it's not going to be your friend, you're not going to play it well. It doesn't matter what pickups are in it. Doesn't matter anything about it. Doesn't matter where it's made from. Doesn't matter anything. You have to think it's cool. And I think this is the most important thing. I think it's more important than pickups. You have to think the guitar is cool. If you think the guitar is cool, and it could be a cheap guitar or an expensive guitar, it doesn't matter. If you think the guitar is cool, now you have something to work with. And it doesn't matter what it's made of. It doesn't matter where it's from. It doesn't matter anything. If you think the guitar is cool now, we can put a set of pickups in it, and all of a sudden, you're off and running. Instead of spending a bunch of time, hey, so if I have a maple fretboard and then I buy your classic fives, is it going to have enough mid-range to do what I want it to do? First of all, I don't know what you want it to do. First of all, I don't know how good your ears work. First of all, I don't know how good you play, all those things. So all I can do is make a pickup that supersedes all of those questions and is 100% guaranteed to make sure that you know that you will have an improvement or a change or an addition in a positive way to your guitar, no matter what. So it's on me to do that as a pickup builder. Will there be a situation where I will say in a chat or to you in the comment section, no, I wouldn't put that pickup in that guitar because it will make it worse? No. Otherwise, I won't make that pickup. Is there a situation where I would say I wouldn't put that pickup in that guitar because I don't think that it would balance? I don't think it would get you where you want to be? Yeah, absolutely. 100%. It happens all the time. In fact, we refer people to other pickup builders all the time because somebody's like, hey, this is what I want, and I play this kind of music. Man, okay, I have this, but you know who has something that would get you there better? You know, and I name some other pickup builder, and they do it. And I recommend them instead. But will I ever sell you a pickup that makes your guitar worse? No, never. Nope. Or I won't make it. I will not make it. I play like crap. Will your pickups make me sound like Angus? So, you laugh about that, and First of all, don't disparage yourself. I'm sure you play better than you say you do. Second of all, our center punch will get you to Angus Young. I guarantee you, if you put a set of our center punches in something and you have some sort of Marshall, either digital profile or Marshall-y kind of tone amp or pedal, and you play back in black, even poorly, you'll go, yeah, that sounds like AC/DC. I guarantee it. Yep. I just think this stuff can be way simpler. I think that it really comes down to, and I know Matt's in the chat and he would agree with me. Number one, if you don't think the guitar is cool, walk away. You got to think the guitar is cool. And if you have to settle because of a financial situation or a unwillingness to spend money, even if you have the financial means, then you will always have that conversation in your head or with someone else, right? We've all heard it. Yeah. Oh yeah. This is a great guitar for the money. This is, I know it's only, et cetera, but I did this thing and it's pretty good now, right? That is the sure sign of somebody who knows they want a real Les Paul or whatever, but doesn't have one for one reason or another. And it could be we can't afford it. It's totally fine. Or we're not willing to spend the money because we have other priorities in life. But that means, and you have to be honest with yourself when you're like, yeah, I know it's only but blah, blah, blah. And you're having to talk yourself into liking the guitar and you're having to talk your friend into the excuse of why you have it means that you don't actually think the guitar is cool. And so you're nowhere. You have to think the gear is cool. That is my opinion. That's an opinion. Obviously, it's not a rule. There's no law about this. But cool stuff is cool for a reason, and cool stuff's not cheap. So, first of all, you have to think it's cool. Otherwise, you're nowhere. You'll never be upset that you got the cool thing that you don't have to make excuses for. That's exactly right. Yeah, Matt and I we agree on that. We've talked about that a lot. And people, I get a lot of shade for thinking like that, but I think it's really important. Especially when it's something that we're doing for fun. Like, you know what I want to do? I want to dedicate a lot of time to learn how to play guitar and imitating my idols that I had as a child and aspiring to be like Angus Young and, because he's cool. But I'm going to figure out every excuse to be as cheap as possible about it and shortcut and, kick my own legs out from under all of the goals that I just said. Says almost every guitar player in the chat at some point or another. I don't understand that mentality. I don't. You got to think it's cool. $2,000 for a real 61 SG reissue or $200 for the kit and elbow grease. Buy the guitar. There is no contest there. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't buy the kit and build one, or that you shouldn't go to Texas Toast Guitars and go through one of their classes and build an SG. They've got a class that you can go do that, and it's pretty neat. And you'll get a better one than any kind of kit. And it's costs about the same as a regular Gibson to do that class. But that's for two different reasons. When you build a guitar for yourself, That's not so that you can have an amazing guitar. I think that's a big misnomer. And I think Matt, maybe Matt will talk about this on Thursday now that I'm bringing it up. But the goal when you build your own guitar should not be these two things: to save money and to have the most amazing guitar. If you want the most amazing guitar, go buy the most amazing guitar. If you want to have an appreciation for what goes into making an amazing guitar, then build one. If you do not have an appreciation for what goes into an amazing guitar and you think that all guitars are the same and that a $200 Harley Benton is just as good as a $2,000 Gibson, then I think you should spend the money and go build a guitar at Texas Toast Guitars first and then buy the guitar. Because anybody who says anybody can build a guitar and anybody who says I'm going to build this kit to save money and it's going to be awesome has another thing coming. It ain't as easy as you think. And if it's your first one, you will not have a $2,000 Gibson when you're done. You will have a guitar shaped thing that mostly functions, maybe, that you will show your friends, but then you'll have to have your hand on one spot because you messed something up. And you don't want them to see that spot, or it will have one fret that buzzes so you can only play one song, or it will be relicked because you messed up the finish and you went to relic it because now it's relicked. Those things will all happen on your first kit guitar. So if you want a good Gibson, go buy one. I would say Matt would agree with me just about on all of those things. Oh, yeah. And Matt's SG classes makes them neck through. They are actually neck through guitars. So I purposely built 100% AliExpress Telecaster build. That's how I learned how to do everything, including soldering. Right now I'm looking at buying a Schecter E1 Evil Twin. Yeah, cool. So and so you understand then that when you do that, it is an education, right? And the first time you tried to solder, the first time you did a setup, you didn't get an amazing guitar. You did get a learning experience, but you didn't get an amazing guitar the first time. Yeah. Yep. I just think, and I guess my reason for having this conversation today was I just think, I was looking at the comment section from yesterday's video, and I'd actually been thinking about this for a few weeks because of all these questions that we get in our chat on the website. And the amount of time and effort that people put into understanding tone is really superseded by two things. Is the guitar cool? Because then it doesn't matter. And two, does it sound good? Those are the only two questions you need to ask. Is it cool? Does it sound good? I guess does it play good, right? But so maybe there's three. Does it play good? Is it cool? And does it sound good? Maybe not even in that order. I think is it cool is the number one. Then maybe does it play good? Because we can make it sound good. So yeah, there's the order right there. Is it cool? Does it play good? And then does it sound good? Those are the only three questions you need to ask. Not what is the fretboard? Not what is the blah, 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 all that crap. I'm like, Matt will call me, like, because I've had a couple of custom guitars built at Texas Toast, right? And he'll call me and be like, what do you want? And I'll say, well, I want the fretboard to be black. And he'll be like, okay, well, we have this crazy wood from somewhere. I don't ask him like, well, when you tap test it, like, how does it sound in comparison to ebony? Like, does it ring like the same? And like, okay, how thick is the finish, that you put on the guitar? And what's the body wood made out of? Because I'm really thinking that I really want, the mids, to be, whatever. I don't care about it. I know that I can make a pickup that will negate that entire conversation. So Matt calls me and says, what do you want? Well, I want the fretboard to be black. I want it to have binding. I want block inlays. And I want that Black Alicious or whatever, intergalactic. That's what it's called. That's what I want. When we spec the guitar that we have here, so we have the Dylan Tuxtone exclusive Gasser series. He asked me, he's like, what do you want? And I was like, I want a Tune-o-matic because I think people will think it's cool because they're familiar with it, right? So this is a great example. So that guitar right there over my right shoulder, that one that you can see on the chair. Let's talk about that guitar for a second. I got to spec that basically from scratch. Now, it was based on the Challenger model, and it kind of had to be based on the Challenger model. But the decisions I made when I spec'd that guitar for us to sell and for us to be exclusive to Dylan Tuxtone, like that guitar you can only buy. That's the only one like it in the world right now, actually. That one right there. It's available, but you can't, that's the only one. If you go to any other Texas Toast dealer in the world, you can't get that guitar. That's the only one. Because we sold, well, we have a gold top too, but we sold the other three. So when I spec'd that guitar, he said, here's the parameters. It needs to be Challenger shape. It needs to be 24/75 scale because that's what the Challenger is. After that, I don't care. What do you want? And I was like, I want something that people are going to think is cool. I did not have a conversation with him. Well, what do you think this material will work the best with this frequency? And I don't care about that. It's going to get DAFs. It's going to get P90s. We decided that from the rip. So you're going to get a humbucker one and you're going to get a P90 one, right? Because those are my two favorite pickups that we make. So he said, what about a stop bar tailpiece? I was like, yeah, I want a stop bar tailpiece because people will think that's cool. It's something that we're used to, right? The hip shot bridge is cool that you put on your brand of guitars, on your Texas Toast stuff, the normal stuff. I was like, but I think a lot of people think the stop bar tailpiece is going to be cool because it's something that we're sort of more familiar with, right? Human beings can only take like one or two changes and then their minds flip out. So the shape of the guitar is a little different, right? So there's the difference. That's the thing that can be different. Now we need to make a bunch of stuff that's kind of familiar and cool that people are going to think is cool. So I said, well, can we make the neck out of mahogany? Because then it'll be really kind of sort of less poly, but it'll still be, because they use maple a lot. It'll still be, a Texas Toast Challenger, but it'll be a little different because it's got a mahogany neck. He's like, yeah, we can do that. That's cool. And can we do wood binding on the neck? I think that's awesome. Block inlays. I wanted those little glowy side dots because I think that's cool. I wanted a black fretboard. I was like, I know you don't use ebony. I don't care. I just want it to be black. So whatever that wood is, it's black kingwood or whatever, the wood that they use. I've got it on a few of my guitars. I absolutely love it. It's cool. And the reason I like it is not because it tap tests and sounds like a fish tank. It's because it's easy to maintain. It stays clean. It stays black. It doesn't like come off because it's actually like a caramelized, like a roasted wood. And so, and it's hard. So it feels very ebony-ish without being ebony. So, okay, that'll work. That's awesome. And then what else? I don't know. Let's think of some cool stuff. And we just did some cool stuff and we made a cool guitar. It sounds amazing. It plays amazing. The spec is awesome. And whether you're familiar with the brand or not, for $3,200, you're getting an amazing guitar. Because it's cool. Not because we overthought every little frequency peak and tap test, blah, 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 all that stuff. Super important. Super important to think like that. Do you spec pickups with a certain amp in mind or with certain gains, reverbs, etc.? Oh, this is a great question. Okay, because this is another one. In the comments section, a lot of times people are like, you use way too much reverb. Okay, here's what I care about. I don't use a certain amp. Here's the thing, and this is how we keep this simple, okay? How we keep this simple is a pickup makes electricity, right? That's all it does. It takes a vibration and it makes electricity. It's a backwards electric motor. So instead of turning electricity into motion, it turns motion into electricity. And it does it at a certain frequency based on how you pluck the string, okay? So we can engineer all that. So it should not matter because it's the first piece of the chain. After your hand, the pickup is the first piece of the signal chain. So it should not matter what amp you play it into. What you should have is as wide of a frequency response as possible. And you should be able to have a line of pickups that contains models that will work. So we do have different models that work different with different amps because we make a certain amount of voltage that will make a low wattage amp like a Princeton act a certain way. And then we have another model, for example, that might make a higher wattage amp like look at JCM 800 act a certain way, right? So yes, we do have, but it's not like, okay, I made this pickup for a Princeton and I made that pickup for an AC30 and I made that pickup for, not like that. It has to work for all of them. Otherwise I'm not going to make it. Great question. But again, we don't need to overthink it because all we're doing is we're taking vibration and we're turning it into electricity. And yes, there's a bunch of science behind that and you get super nerdy about it. But the end result needs to be, does it work? And does it do the things that I care about? Does it, when I put, and here's what I care about. Note definition under any gain circumstance. So 5150, dimed, channel 3, you need to be able to hear every note in the E chord when you slam the E chord, not just a big mush, okay? Which, if it does that, then we know it'll do that all the way down to a clean, okay? The other thing is clarity. I want it to be able to compress and not lose clarity. It cannot get muddy under any circumstance. Number 2. And number 3, I want it to be dynamic. So I want it to be on a low wattage amp, or actually it doesn't matter. I want to take the amp and put it at the edge of breakup and be able to pluck the string very softly and have a relatively clean tone and then lean on it and push that amp into compression. If it will do that and then do that function with the volume knob, then I'm very happy. You get it home, put it in your guitar and twiddle the knobs on your amp and get the sound that you want specifically. So maybe you want more mid-range, maybe you want more bass, maybe you want more treble or less treble or etc. And you EQ the thing how you want. I'm giving you something that will do all of those things correctly, and then you narrow it down yourself. So probably one of the biggest kind of design, I don't know, parameters, ethos, whatever you want to call it, that I do differently probably is, for example, on the website right now, we only have one set of Telecaster pickups, okay? It is not my intention, I don't want to, make a set of Strat pick or Tele pickups that's like, it's good from this to here, and you use this for country on Saturdays when it's raining, and then this model is right here, and you use this for rock, but only on Fridays, you know, with a Marshall. And then I only want this model over here that's like, you know, this is for the person who just leaves it on 10 all the time and plays through Line 6 Spider Jam 5, right? Like, why not make a pickup that does all of those things? And then you choose in your rig how you want to use that pickup. So that's what we do. I'm going to give you all three of those things. So if you want to play it through your Line 6 Spider Jam, if you want to play it through your Marshall on a Friday, and if you want to play it through AC30 on a Wednesday, it'll do all three. That's what I think that's something that maybe we do a little different. And because I believe that it's a marketing ploy to be like, okay, this is your Thursday pickup, this is your Friday pickup, and this is your Saturday pickup. So now you need to buy all three from me. Could I make a bunch of money doing that? Yeah, but I think it's kind of disingenuous. So I mean, just make an awesome one and just be awesome. It just doesn't make sense to me to do it like that. That was a great question because that's a hard thing to explain. The folks, and I'm bad at it. Like on the website, like trying to explain this is why I have to do this with you every week, because it's really hard for me to be like in a description in 50 words or 3 sentences and bullet points. Like, how do I convey all this to you? Now, everybody who owns our stuff can get in the comments right now and be like, oh yeah, I bought his P90 and it's exactly right. You're exactly right. That's what it does. It's super hard for me to explain that. So I'm glad you asked that question because it's a difficult one to explain. Yeah. Thanks, Cody, for that. That was really cool. That was a cool question. But that's how I care. That's what I care about when it comes to the nerdy parts. I think that the thing should work in anything. So if you buy a Harley Benton for $200 or something off of Temu and you buy pickups from me, it should make that guitar better. It should not be like well, this only works in a specific circumstance. It wouldn't make sense to me to make that product. You know what I mean? No, that was a great question. That's what I think about. Let's see. I could be wrong here, but with the rise of people using digital amp software, does that make pickup tones irrelevant? No, it makes it more important. That's a good question too. This is going to be our last kind of deep dive for the day, but this is a great question. Mr. Bunch of Symbols. I don't know what your name actually is because it's just a bunch of symbols. So we'll say man formerly known as something else. That's what your name is now. You still have to do something. You still have to turn motion into electricity. Okay? And what you send, the method of amplification of that 300 millivolts or whatever it is. So let's say it's 300 millivolts. The method of amplification does not matter because all you're doing is you're taking that 300 millivolts and you're making it bigger. Okay? Now, how you do that is important. Like, do you make part of it bigger? Do you make all of it bigger? And how you shape it? Like, that's important. But you still have to take that 300 millivolts that pickup is making and make it bigger. Before it gets to the amp, that 300 millivolts of voltage is very small and it's very easy to manipulate because it's very small and it's very easy to affect with things like too long of a cable with bad capacitance, etc. Too many pots in your guitar, bad pots in your guitar, cheap pots, bad tapers, stuff like that. Because that voltage is so small and so easy to mess up, it's really important that the accuracy of when you strike the string. So this is the entire idea of an electric guitar is this. Really boiled down to super simple. When I strike the string, I'm expecting a certain sound, right? And we're going to make a bunch of jokes about this because we suck at playing guitar and all that, right? But when I strike the string, if I close my eyes and I strike the string, I'm expecting a certain sound that I intended to make with this hand to come out of the speaker over there. There's all kinds of reasons why that doesn't happen. A, I suck. B, my cable sucks. C, my pots suck. And when I say suck, I mean like take away from the potential of the pickup in the guitar. So that pickup has to be able to accurately translate the intended movement of your hand to a specific frequency at a specific voltage and then be amplified however you want it to amplify it. So the pickup is still the most important part of the guitar. Because if it doesn't make the sound in the first place, if it doesn't make the range of frequencies, if it doesn't make the voltage and the range of frequencies and how that interacts, then you can't make it afterwards. And I think this is something that, I mean, I could get in an argument with many other YouTube creators and people who think they know stuff, and we could talk about it. And I feel very strongly about this. And it's not just because I make pickups. Like, I mean, if I made amps, I would still think this. The accuracy of the finger to the vibration to the voltage and the frequency is the most important part. What you do after it is all adjustable. But if the frequency doesn't exist in the first place, you can't make it later. There you go. Super interesting stuff. You guys, this is really fun. Thanks for hanging out. I dig this a lot. And get in the comments, have further conversations about this. I think this is really, really cool. This has probably been one of the more fun ones we've had lately. And I appreciate all of your contributions to it. And the questions today were really, really cool. I'm going to try to make some more content this week. I don't know what that means. We are going to have a live stream on Thursday night. We're going to try something different. Leslie's going to be here. I'm going to be in Nashville, but we're still going to do it. So if nothing else, we'll see you on Thursday night.